Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a short little knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Cold Steel Micro Recon 1, which up until recently I honestly didn't know existed. This was sent to me by Kenneth. Thank you very much, Kenneth, for sending this in for review. This is pretty cool. You can find links for this guy, both this version, the less expensive version, and there's a slightly more expensive version right down in the description. It'll also pull up the other Recon series knives, so you can check all this stuff out if you want to. Thank you so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. You can find a link for my Patreon right down below. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy, because this is a teeny, tiny, weeny little knife. Recon 1 Micro coming in at 4 1/4. Blade length coming in at a little under, about 1.8 inches, and your cutting edge is coming in at about 1.75 inches. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1, and let's just do, we'll just do a couple. Spyderco Para 3, so you can see here, a little tiny knife, right? How about the Benchmade Mini Griptilian? There you go. And we'll do one more here. The Rat 2. So yeah, obviously, little teeny tiny knife. We'll do carry profile up against the Spyderco Para 3 here real quick, so you guys can get an idea of thickness. Not a thick knife. Maybe a little bit thicker than you might expect, but definitely thinner than Spyderco Para 3, right? Length and height, PM2 and Para 3. You can see here, it's not going to be a difficult object to carry. It does not have a pocket clip, but if you're going to put this in your pocket, it's just not going to be taking up that much room. The blade stock thickness on this guy is going to be mega thin. Go ahead and do that for you here real quick. Coming in at, there you go, not much at all. But again, that's kind of what you expect. Weight, we're looking at Grivex. So injection mold plastic, and in this case, 4034 stainless steel, which apparently is in the same class, whatever that means, as 420HC, but I doubt it has the same rounded performance. I think this steel, from what I understand of it, is acceptable given what they want for this one. You can get AUS 10A, or the annealed form of AUS 10, in the more expensive version. There are no steel liners or anything inside that. All the integrity comes from the Triad Lock, which truthfully is more than enough structural integrity for something that's this small. A weight of 1 ounce, roughly. So there you go. Not going to be something that is difficult to carry. What are we looking at for hardware? I believe the pivot screw is going to be a T8. We'll check that here real quick. Yeah, T8. And then you got some T6 screws back here. And just a couple, and then some Chicago ends. If you really want to take this apart, it's no big deal. So there you go. Let's see here. So this is a thumb stud opener, and you you can flick it out. Now, one-handed manipulation with this guy, I'll tell you guys, in fact, I'm realizing I actually did catch myself with it. I tried to disengage this and sort of shake it down. You can do that, and it'll just barely tap you, right? But if you try to shake it down, it's probably going to come down on your fingers. So I would say, and I think this is obvious, if you're going to disengage this lock, just disengage it, close it with 2 hands. This isn't going to be a knife that you really need to be, flipping in and out super fast. This is a convenient, in the moment kind of have it somewhere where you just need to open a box or a pet. This isn't going to be something you're going to be taking out and using for long periods of time. Like, can you break it down a cardboard box with it? Yeah, you definitely can. But I mean, just looking at this, right, we all know what this is going to be used for. This is the type of knife that you leave in that little compartment in your car or your truck, right? Or you leave it in your junk drawer, or you leave it, if you've got a little table that's like right when you come into your house, you've got a table that's out of reach of little kids or something like that, and you kind of leave it in a little dish or something. It's just kind of, oh yeah, grab that pocket knife that's up by the door, right, to open this. That's what this is, right? So there's a lot of elements that I normally apply to a review that just don't make sense here. If you really did want to carry this, a lot of people are thinking, I would carry that. I wish it had a pocket clip. You can buy those little keychain. They come on the rings, and it's like a deep carry clip that'll sort of hang it, and it almost ends up looking like a lanyard, but it's a little deep carry clip. You can go that route if you want to. And it honestly wouldn't surprise me if somebody made some type of aftermarket clip that's going to fit one side or the other of these screws. It is completely and totally ambidextrous, considering the only thing that's your hands are going to be interacting with, besides the thumb studs, which there's one on each side, is the Triad Lock, right? So yeah, it's 100% ambidextrous. This is a knife that if you want to, you can carry it as sort of a fifth pocket knife. I think it'll probably fit in that actual fifth pocket. I don't like to put knives there. I like to put them if I'm going to carry a second knife to hand to somebody, right? If you don't want some, dude messing around with your Spyderco Shaman, right? If you don't want them prying open a can of tuna with your Spyderco Shaman, right? You feel like they might do something dumb with it. Carrying a knife like this is a backup knife or something that you're going to hand to people for that reason, or so that it's a less intimidating cutting object. I mean, this is a pretty not intimidating object, despite it being a cold steel and being called the Recon, right? It's pretty non-aggressive. So this is a knife that I would carry in my back pocket for that reason as well. Fit and finish all the way around, it looks pretty good. It's pretty much what I'd expect. I'm going to tell you guys right now, the version that I'm handling right here in front of you is a $27 knife. The version with AUS 10A is a $67 knife. I don't think either of them are out of line, but if I'm going to buy something this small, I'm probably going to go with something as cheap as possible, despite me giving a really glowing review to the Spyderco McBee, which is a very premium micro knife, right? Truthfully, if I'm going to carry a micro knife, it's going to be something like this. I want it to be solid. I want it to be built well, just so that I know it's going to hold up, even though I'm just going to be using it for light little things here and there. But yeah, I'm probably not going to spend a whole lot of money on it. So 27 bucks, right? 4034 steel. It's fine. All right. The fit and finish honestly is pretty impressive for something that's this small and this inexpensive. We've got a sort of brick pattern texturing on this Grivex stuff. This stuff is going to be plenty strong for anything you could even think of that you would, logically put this thing through, right? And again, the Triad Lock is doubling as a backspacer or sort of, integrity catalyst, right? Whatever you want to call that. And surprisingly, I thought for sure, I was like, there's no way this is going to lock up like perfectly solid. It does. It's got that true Triad Lock. Totally. It's funny to me that the Triad Lock is on this because, I've always considered the Triad Lock really cool, and it's very respectable how strong the thing is. But I've considered that lock overkill on everything. A big knife, a medium-sized knife, right? I think it's especially overkill on something like this, but it's kind of neat, right? Use something that's this tiny and it's got the novelty of the Triad Lock. Believe me, I do think the Triad Lock can handle, like if you're really going to take a knife out and use it harder than you would normally use a knife, right? You'd probably want the Triad Lock. I'm not coming down on it. I think it does have its place for sure. It's kind of a, less than 1% circumstantial situation, So anyways, the Triad Lock is overkill, but I think it's a cool novelty. And so what? At 27 bucks, 26 bucks, it's not really hurting anything, The blade looks good. I like that they did a tumbled finish on it. I think that's beautiful. The final cutting bevel looks great. It doesn't come down to a razor thin edge, but thin enough to just poke into a box and cut it open, get rid of some tape, right? Whatever you want to do. These come in a few different blade shapes. They've got clip point, they've got tanto, and they've got drop point. I think they even make a black blade. So if you really want, the hyper stealthy version, then you can get that. It says cold steel Taiwan and 4034 stainless steel on this side. And then on this side, it just says Recon 1. I do like that you can just barely get your hands into a position to open it. It kind of has that same uncomfortable feeling that I get with the Spyderco Dragonfly, where my hands are so cramped that it's just not, This, for whatever reason, is a little bit easier to open and close multiple times. I wouldn't call this a fidget knife. People who pick it up will still probably sit around and do this periodically, right? You can do it. But after a while, the position your hand has to be in to get underneath that thumb stud, it's just going to start to get, in your subconscious, it's going to start to get uncomfortable, and you're going to put it down faster than you would some type of full-size titanium frame lock flipper on bearings, right? The kind of knives that we all sit around and play with. So yeah, it locks up solid. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. This knife is going to cut, it's going to deploy, it's going to lock out solid, and it's going to close, it's going to stay in the closed position. But yeah, seriously, no blade play. What's it running on? It's running on what you'd expect. It's running on Teflon washers. Can we see in there? Yeah, you can see that it's a little hint of Teflon in there. That's fine. I really don't care. Honestly, at this size, I just don't care. It's not that big of a deal. Ergonomically, this is a 2-finger position knife. For the 2 fingers I can get on it, it's comfortable. There's one way to hold this. Well, okay, there's 2 ways. You can hold it like this, or you can do this, right? I think it'd be really cool if they had like a dedicated sort of Wharncliffe blade for this guy, because that's doing draw cuts with a little teeny tiny blade, having that much control with your finger down there at the nose, that'd be great. You can kind of do that with the Tanto, right? There's a benefit on a teeny tiny knife like this with a Tanto. I think a blade with 2 separate angles has, that much more amazing utility packed into such a small object, because you can do things like cut or scrape or use one edge for one thing, right? Of course, with the Tanto, you lose the convenience of sharpening because you have to sharpen 2 separate angles. In this knife, if you are going to cut straight down, it's important to remember the thumb stud is well into the cutting path. Usually I say, why didn't they just position it in a different spot? It would have made it better, right? I mean, in this case, it's like, well, they didn't have a whole lot of room to work with, right? So it's fine. I mean, again, we have to consider exactly what it is we're going to be using this knife for and how much that really matters, right? Most of people are going to take this and cut open something that came in from Amazon that was sitting on their front porch. They come in the door, they grab it out of the little dish that's on that table, and then they cut it open and they put it back in the dish and they forget about it, right? That's the kind of knife that this is. Got a little backspacer back here that's made out of the same stuff. It's all right. There's a couple of, this one side's kind of lipped up a little higher, but again, we're looking at $27. No big deal. There's a little lanyard hole on a knife like this with no pocket clip. Some people might actually prefer having the lanyard on there, right? So you can grab at it. It doesn't have a pocket clip, so this is one of the rare occasions where I'm like, okay, if you want to attach something to it, at least it's there because it doesn't have a pocket clip. Or at least the ones that came in to me and the listings that I saw there's no mention of a pocket clip or anything like that. Centering, surprisingly, it's pretty good, right? I mean, it's not absolutely perfect, but I just thought it would just be this kind of slapped together thing. No, it's all right. This is one of those knives where it's like, nobody needs this, but then again, it is very useful for a lot of people. I think that if you don't have a dedicated small junk drawer knife or kind of lay it somewhere and have it be the convenient knife that you reach for in some, just a moment of need, right? And so that you don't have to use a pair of scissors. This is still way better than a pair of scissors, right? That's what this is, right? So it's not like this isn't going to be on anyone's burning desires list. But it does make sense to have a tiny knife. I've got a little tiny Spyderco that I keep on my keychain, and I use it all the time. I've got a little Victorinox. The Cadet now sits in my truck with the Leatherman, and I use those things a lot, right? I've got another knife in the junk drawer that I just leave in there, and when I'm in the kitchen, I just need something, that maybe a kitchen knife is a little overkill for. Then I'll use that, right? Those knives get used a lot and we don't realize it. And if you're not leaving this somewhere like that, if you're not like laying it down and having it like a convenient location knife, then it does make sense to have a backup, just a cheapy 5th pocket knife, right? Something you leave in the back pocket. Now, it also makes knives like this much more likely to get washed, right? You're going to take your dedicated knife out of your pocket 99.9% of the time. This guy, I was constantly washing my Cadet or whatever knife that I had back there in my right rear pocket. I was constant. You'll forget about it because it's so small and your mind's not on this one because it's likely not going to be the prized item that you're carrying around, right? But it is well built and it is comfortable for the 2 fingers that you can get on it, right? I think it's got appropriate materials for what they want for it. And it's honestly kind of just neat to have such a tiny knife with such a ridiculously powerful and durable lock, right? It's just, if for no other reason, the novelty of that. This also makes a great gift, right? If you're just trying to do, hey, I just got you something, whether you Father's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas, birthday. Little stuff like this, if you're going to give somebody a pocket knife, especially somebody who's not really a knife person, something like this, I think is a lot more appropriate and it'll be more well received, right? If you've got a buddy or a friend of any type, when you're around them and something needs to be opened, that person who's like, going to their junk drawer and trying to dig out the pair of scissors, and then you have to sit there and watch them struggle to open it. If you have that friend, here's a perfect gift for that friend. Dude, just use a pocket knife. It's way easier, right? $27, sure. Is this recommendable? Yeah, sure, right? Nobody needs this, but it definitely will find a place in pretty much anybody's life. I think this is cool. If you really want the nicer version, OS 10A, if you're wondering, will perform, from what I've read, somewhere between VG10 and 154 CM. This stuff, the 4034 stainless steel, it's not going to hold an edge super long. It is going to be stainless, but that's really all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be any type of ultra high-end, especially, not just considering the size, especially at this price point. So, yeah, for sure, pick one of these up. I said short review. We're going on 15 minutes. I'll link this down below. You can pick it up for yourself or somebody that you want to, introduce knives to, for sure. This will go in my most recommended knives playlist and my cheap knives I like playlist. Absolutely. Thank you very much again to Kenneth for sending this in. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.